that has gone out into the world. So you can be walking down the street and you can see a billboard with a poster on it that you've helped create. I worked with Cara Delevingne last year. She's a lot smaller in real life than I thought she would be.
And sometimes it's hard to break in and it won't happen immediately, but if you keep the faith and keep the strength, then you'll get there eventually.
Did you know that on average, you're exposed to 5,000 adverts per day, and whether you know it or not, they will be influencing your behavior? Marketing in a nutshell is about a company getting its solutions or products known and to influence potential customers to buy them. It's a fascinating career, and to help us make sense of what a career in marketing looks like, we're going to be hearing from 3 marketing experts at the top of their game from a variety of industries, including finance, pharmaceuticals, and brands you may be more familiar with, such as Adidas and Volkswagen. So now let's meet them. Could I ask you to please tell us about yourselves and your background? And can we start with you, please, Chris?
Hi, James, of course. I'll start from the top. I chose business studies as one of my A-level selections on a bit of a whim, really. I didn't really plan to go for it at first, but thoroughly enjoyed it over the first year. And then came across one of the modules, which was marketing. And it was what I really enjoyed more than anything else for that 2 years of business studies. From there, I decided to look into marketing at university. And what I actually wanted to do was a sandwich course. So 2 years of marketing, then a year in industry, and then back to university for a year. So I went up north to Sheffield to do a 4-year course. After that, my third year was actually in Australia, where I worked for Energizer, the battery company. And then we came back over, finished off my university. And from there, went into my first job in 2012, which was for a small M&A boutique, a mergers and acquisitions boutique, helping them run the marketing department there. And about 4 years ago, I made the big move to a large international company called SEI, where I am at the moment. There's about 3,500 of us around the world. I work for a part of the business called the Wealth Platform, which is the Fintech part of the company. So I've done that for 4 years now. The part I work in, which is the SEI Wealth Platform, is financial technology. So what we do is provide the back office technology services and solutions for wealth managers and private banks and some of the smaller financial companies as well. So if you see it online, then we run the systems.
Superb. And Annabelle, can we jump to you now and you talk to you about your A-level choices and your journey, please?
Yeah, sure. So mine's slightly different. I studied biology, chemistry and Spanish at A-level. And chose to go down the more science route as opposed to languages. So I went to Southampton University and studied biomedical science there. It was a 3-year degree, and I kind of left that not knowing what I wanted to do really, and applied for an internship, a marketing internship at a pharmaceutical company, where I stayed at that company for about 8 years. So I started in the UK role as kind of a brand manager on various different brands within diabetes space for about 4 years. And then I moved to Paris and worked for the same company in their global team for a couple of years, and then had the opportunity to work in Japan for a while in a regional marketing position, again on the same kind of brands within diabetes and within the pharmaceutical space. And more recently have moved companies sort of towards the end of last year, and now work in a much smaller, more biotech company as an associate director of marketing, and I'm working on a kind of pre-licensed product at the moment.
Sure. Okay. So this product isn't yet available on the marketplace, but you're sort of drumming up exposure to potentially the treatment it may cover, something along those lines.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And so can you just tell us in a nutshell, what are you actually trying to achieve in that role? What's your purpose for being there?
Yeah, so a company like this, we have one product which is on the market at the moment, and there's obviously a big commercial team working behind that now. Where I'm working, it's in clinical trial stage still, so it doesn't yet have marketing authorization. So we're myself and my boss and the team are working on the commercial launch plan for that. So it's very much around what does the market look like at the moment? Where is the potential? Where do we want to focus? And it requires a lot of understanding on the clinical data behind the product so that we can understand what it is that we need to use as marketing messages, campaign visuals before we go out post-license and actually communicate that to doctors out there. Brilliant.
Thank you, Annabelle. And Josh, these two are, they're the marketing teams within companies. The interest for you being here is because you represent the agency side of marketing. Can you just tell us about yourself, your path, your A-levels, please?
Sure. So for A-levels, I took maths, physics and English. I wanted to keep my options quite open, not really knowing what career path I wanted to go down. For university, I went to Nottingham University and studied physics with nanoscience, quite a random niche subject, but I enjoyed physics at school and thought that physics obviously shows problem solving, understanding of mathematics and so on, which I thought would keep my career options quite open. So I went into university studying that, realized quite quickly that physics wasn't the route I wanted to go down. Stuck out a career of the 3 years studying that, but at the same time kind of looked at other career options. I had a friend of the family who was in marketing and advertising space, and so speaking to them, I managed to get a work experience placement for a few weeks at an agency, which I really enjoyed. It played to my strengths a bit more than I think physics did. So I kind of saw that as a career path, which I dug into a bit more, and basically reached out to a number of agencies as soon as I finished university, kind of applying for their graduate schemes, work experience placements. And was lucky enough to get my foot in the door at an agency called VCCP, who are well known for doing the advertising for O2, Compare the Market, and numerous other brands. So had a 2-week work experience with them in their new business department. So an advertising agency, they work alongside marketing departments of brands. So the difference between marketing and advertising is that, I guess, marketing is you research and you develop a product and then you bring it to market. Advertising, specifically the aspect where you bring it to market, so it's producing the strategy and the communications to take that product and then take it out to the world, and kind of working through all of that. So my role there was helping to bring in new business, which I then kind of took further and moved on to the account management side. So that's essentially client services. So that's working with the marketing departments within a brand, and you essentially become the liaison between them and the creatives to help them to produce work. So I stayed at my agency there, working on numerous brands. Then I moved between a few other agencies, and now I'm at an agency called Adam and Eve DDB, where I work on brands such as Adidas and Volkswagen, helping them to produce campaigns for new products that they have.
I think the agency engagement, just can you explain that? So a brand will have some product, and then they'll recruit an agency to take care of their marketing needs. Is that roughly how it works?
Exactly. So depending on the brand, they will have obviously different needs, and they will go out to different agencies depending on their specified skill set. So mine is a integrated agency, so we kind of cover off a wide variety of skill sets. So we tend to have big global national brands coming to us, wanting to communicate their new products at a global or national level. So for example, Volkswagen and Adidas, obviously very well-known brands, they'll come to us, Volkswagen will come to us saying, we have this new car available, we want to communicate it to this type of audience. We will then take that brief, understand that audience, work out kind of the key, kind of the points of interest of this vehicle, and then kind of turn that into a creative sales message, and wrap a creative idea around that, and then produce a piece of communications that gets that car and that point of difference across about this vehicle, and then share it with the world.
So what does a typical day look like?
Every day is very, very different. One of the kind of the key things that I like about the job is you're never kind of just sitting behind a desk for 8 hours, 10 hours a day. We kind of typically you have lots of meetings with kind of creative strategists, with your clients, talking through the product projects and campaigns you've got going on at the moment. Depending on kind of the state of those projects, you could be in creative reviews, reviewing kind of scripts and scamps of kind of creative ideas, or you could be producing those. So you could be out on a shoot, you could be in a different country. I've been lucky enough to travel kind of around the world with this job, kind of going to shoot various things in various places. So it's always different, always varied, and always exciting.
Brilliant. And Annabelle, how about you?
Again, very similar. We have a lot of meetings. I'd say, 60-70% of the day can be in meetings, but very varied ones. They could be with our creative agencies, it could be with our medical teams, your legal and compliance teams, trying to get things signed off, planning for congresses. We do a lot of congresses in the pharmaceutical sector, which, similar to Josh, I guess, allows for quite a lot of travel, because they're often in different cities around the world. And team meetings as well. We have a big cross-functional team. A lot of people have to pull together to launch a product, so we spend a lot of time just updating each other on where we are with various things as well.
We're very open on where you can work from, if you want to head out and work from a cafe for a bit, or if you want to work from home or on the roof of the building even. It's pretty varied most of the time.
All jobs, have their good sides. I'm just really interested to find out what you most like about your career in marketing, and whether there's any, particular peak experience that you've had. So let's go to Josh, please, on that one.
I guess what I find most interesting about the job is the creative aspect. So kind of at the end of a campaign, there is a piece of communication that you have created that has gone out into the world. So you can be walking down the street and you can see a billboard with a poster on it that you've helped create. And for me, it's quite I just find that very interesting, and it keeps me going. You might be watching a TV ad and you see a TV ad that you've helped produce, and you were there when it was shot, and you might have had something to do with the way that script came about, or how that scene was shot, and there's a sense of pride there that I get, and that I can tell my friends and my family, oh, that's one of mine.
I like that a lot.
And I've been fortunate enough to work on some great campaigns, got to meet some quite exciting people. I worked with Cara Delevingne last year. She's a lot smaller in real life than I thought she would be. I've done some campaigns around the World Cup, so having to spend my entire summer living, breathing, working, talking football was a massive highlight of mine. It's that element of kind of seeing work that you've helped produce out into the world, and people talking about it on Twitter, kind of on the news even. There's a real kind of sense of achievement from that, I think.
The other two, I think seeing stuff come to life and come to fruition is really nice. It usually comes towards the end of it, when a campaign's been worked on for months and it all comes out. To see all your individual pieces coming together to form like a holistic campaign is really nice. It makes all the hours seem worthwhile. In terms of success factor, because our main role as SEI, as the wealth platform, is to sign new business. Seeing new business get signed and the sales guys celebrating and thanking us for supporting them through it is brilliant. So you can track someone from a prospect all the way through to signing a deal, and you can see where you've had tangible inputs in the timeline. So you've basically worked towards that. It's brilliant.
Are there any difficult sides to the job that people should be aware of? And is there anything that you'd known before entering the industry? And Josh, I'm going to fire that one at you, please.
I mean, it's a lot of hours, and quite time precious work when you're kind of coming up with these campaigns. The media spaces that we're looking to fill, so TV ad spots, they're often booked months in advance. So we kind of have very hard deadlines that we need to hit. So we need to kind of be doing everything we can to make sure that the work is ready to go live when it needs to go live. And those time pressures can be quite stressful. And it does mean working kind of quite late hours. And I guess, different hours than your usual 9 to 5. You might find yourself working occasionally weekends, if and when you need to, and late into the evening. But obviously the payoff is it's mostly worth it. And then in terms of other aspects, which I guess would be, I'd like to have known, as my role as kind of client services and kind of running accounts with lots of different teams, you often find yourself as the middleman between kind of different opinions. So the client's opinions versus the creative's opinions. And so kind of having to balance and kind of find a middle ground between lots of different parties can be quite stressful. So I'd say it's not for someone who is kind of, if they're not a people person, then this kind of isn't really a job for you. You spend a lot of your time speaking and dealing with people and kind of their issues and kind of looking to overcome those.
Sure.
So that can be quite stressful at times, but it's kind of part of the job and you roll with the punches.
Brilliant. And I actually think this is a nice segue into the question of what skills do you actually need to succeed in marketing? Annabelle, can I chuck that one at you, please?
Yeah, that fully agree. I'd say number one is the interpersonal skills. You've got to have, as a brand manager, as a marketing manager, you've got to have all of the right people on board with your strategy, with your communications, everything that you're trying to do. And I think with that, flexibility is obviously a key thing there, especially in an industry like pharmaceuticals. Quite a lot of things are slightly out of your control. The clinical trial data says what it says. You can't influence that. So you have to be flexible around everything that comes out of any clinical trials that are ongoing. And similarly, you've got to have flexibility with your campaigns. So, data and analytics behind those campaigns are so important. And if you see that something's not going in the right direction, or you've got to change something, then as much as you might love that campaign, you've got to be quite flexible with the approach that you take and adapt things and change them almost on a daily basis. And I'd say just the usual things: teamwork, organizational ability, and generally just having a passion for the brand that you work on and the job that you do. Because similar to what Josh said, it's hard work. It's a lot of hours. So if you don't really enjoy what you're doing and don't feel passionate about it, then you're going to struggle with it. But if you have that, then it makes it a really rewarding job.
Which I think is fascinating, because you are all in the field of marketing, but you're in different industries. So presumably you're in pharmaceutical because of your biomedical science background and your interest for science. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
And then Chris, what took you down the wealth, the finance side of things? Is that just your interest?
Not really, no. It was, my first job was, we were coming out of university into the job market in a tough job market. There wasn't a lot out there. It was mainly based on the job role description rather than the industry. It just so happened that financial services I've ended up really enjoying.
Okay.
I could have just as equally hated it. I was definitely marketing orientated, not necessarily financial services orientated. It also pays all right, so that's fine.
which again, this is perfect as well. And Josh, we'll come back to the paying shortly. Josh, what about your side? You're the agency side. So do you like the fact that you're working with well-known brands? Why this particular sort of segment, this industry?
I'm someone who likes to be kind of kept busy, and I don't like kind of being bored with the same subject again and again and again. So advertising for me allows me to experience different sectors and different markets in a way that is part of my job, and is I'm allowed to, and kind of keep the same role but experience those different sectors without having to kind of move jobs all the time. Fine. So over my career, I've kind of worked on tea brands, airports, like automotive brands, alcohol brands, gambling brands. I've been quite fortunate with a lot of the brands kind of lining up with interests of mine. So working on alcohol brands and gambling and football brands and stuff like that, and sports brands, they're things that I quite enjoy. So, I
love the honesty.
Yeah, why not? It's kind of, agencies tend to hire teams of people that will have a more of an affinity with the brands they work on.
Salaries. Let's talk about salaries. I've got a degree, or I'm going down the apprenticeship route. what salaries can people expect to earn from starting their careers, and what can they eventually go on to earn later on in their careers?
It really depends on the industry as well. Marketing as a broad topic is incredibly varied with all of the salaries. You've got agencies, you've got client sides. As a general starter, I mean, it's moved on a bit probably since I was a grad almost 10 years ago, maybe around 30 as a starting. And then you can go all the way up to, you know, if you are in the top of your game in a big multinational company running an international marketing department, it'll easily be over 150, 160 grand a year. Obviously with that comes the stress and the importance of doing what you do. There's also the option that once it gets up to a certain level, depending on the business, you can have equity in the business as well. We're increasingly seeing chief marketing officers, CMOs having equities in some of the businesses they're working in. So the sky's the limit, really.
I would say from an advertising perspective, there are a number of ways in which you can go into a job in advertising, kind of be that through graduate schemes, which kind of tend to be one of the most used ways into the industry. If you're kind of on a graduate program, that kind of would see you starting at kind of around 20 grand a year mark. It kind of tends to start small, and then kind of the longer you're there, the higher you rise, then the kind of the exponential pay increases get. So there is kind of lots of room for growth.
And we've hinted on it. Let's deal with this. Routes into marketing. You mentioned graduate schemes. Can you just, Josh, you take the lead on this, please? What are the general routes into a career in marketing?
They're quite varied. So obviously going into university and looking to study marketing in particular. So you come out with the skills that you need so that you can approach brands, agencies, and so you kind of have the knowledge. That is just one of the ways, though. A lot of the people in my agency, they didn't study marketing at university. They come from backgrounds like myself. Kind of, you've got people who've done geography, history, maths, English, kind of a whole host of kind of subjects. And as long as you kind of still, you have those kind of people skills that we talked about, that kind of organizational time management, those kind of core people skills, then you can still go into a career in marketing and advertising. So there's, as I say, university degrees. There are graduate schemes that you can go on within agencies. You can apply for kind of courses through the Chartered Institute of Marketing, the Institute of Practitioners of Advertising. There are specific courses that you can do through those kind of governing bodies of marketing and advertising to kind of help get your foot in the door there. And then there's the work experience route I went down, which is kind of just looking for roles within agencies, however small, for however short a period of time, and just kind of learning the ways through kind of shadowing people within those spaces and hoping to kind of carve out a space for yourself.
Brilliant. And just also, it is worth mentioning that a number of agencies I've seen and companies, apprenticeships seem to be, on the offer as well. So that is worth mentioning as well. And
yes,
certainly from my research, the Chartered Institute of Marketing, CIM.co.uk website has got some really good information on there, which I would encourage our viewers to go and look at. Speaking of work experience, do any of you have any thoughts and recommendations to our viewers on how to secure themselves work experience? Chris, any thoughts? Say again.
Just ask. I mean, the worst thing that anyone can ever say is no. We have people from their families, their friends. If there's the open opportunity, then it will always be there. Don't be afraid to, if you see an interesting company or you speak to someone from an interesting company, just ask the question, because the worst they can say is no, and most likely they'll try and fit you in there. People are always keen to kind of disseminate their knowledge and help the next generation too. I know I'm always happy to do it. There's specific routes through university as well. There's always the opportunity to do summer work experiences and summer internships. It's just go out there and looking for it, really. It won't come to you. You have to go out there and look for it.
That's exactly what I think. Any other thoughts from you guys, from Annabelle, Josh?
No, I'd say the same. Try and find people you know who might be in the industry you're interested in. Any marketing skills, go to them, see if they know anything or know of anyone. That's certainly how I did it. I mean, grad schemes are great. They're really, really good things to do. They give you a wide range of experience within a specific company, but they're not the be all and end all. I think if you start with an apprenticeship or an internship, however you approach it, you don't need necessarily that structured entrance into marketing. There's so many different ways you can get into it, and you just have to go out and try and ask and see who's willing to help, basically.
Yeah. Josh, any final thoughts?
I would say if you're looking for a career in kind of the creative aspect of marketing, so a creative agency, then and you find yourself a creative person, then play off that creativity. And so when you are applying for roles, then play up to that. So don't just send an email with a video attachment of you kind of showing off that creativity. When I was at my first agency, I was helping in the recruitment side of it as well. And we saw lots of people kind of sending through their CVs in various creative ways to kind of catch the attention of the people that were hiring. So I would say if you have strengths in drawing or creative writing, then play to that strength and do something that kind of shows off that talent and kind of sets you apart from everyone else out there.
What advice would you give to someone considering this career? And also, is there anything they can be doing now to help them in maybe entering this career later on in their lives? So can we have that question answered, please? And Chris, final thoughts from yourself.
Yeah, touching on everything really. If you want to get into the industry, there's going to be hundreds of thousands of other people who are trying to do the same thing and getting into the same industry. So it's about drawing yourself away from the crowd, whether that's doing work experience before you start looking for your job. So either doing a sandwich degree at university or doing summer work experience, or as Josh said, finding different ways to bring your personality through and bring your strengths through in the job interview or the job application process. It's tough and sometimes it's hard to break in and it won't happen immediately, but if you keep the faith and keep the strength, then you'll get there eventually and you'll get to be where you want to be.
Brilliant. Annabelle, final thoughts from yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say, there's marketing in everything, right? Just find what you're interested in first, whether it's science, whether it's sport, art, music, cars, I don't know, just find whatever that is first. And I can just guarantee there'll be a marketing opportunity and an area that you find really, really interesting and become very passionate about within that, if marketing is something you want to go into. And there's always a route in. It doesn't have to be the traditional study it first, go on a grad scheme. There's always different ways to get into it. As you've heard from the three of us, we've had very different routes into marketing as well.
Brilliant. Josh, final thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, like the guys have already said, there's lots of opportunity out there for a career in marketing, be that through the brands themselves and the clients or through agencies. But there's also a lot of people going for those jobs. So kind of just keep on persevering. There will be roles out there for you. You can dip your toes in work experience and try different things out to kind of find out that niche in marketing that is right for you. But if you enjoy a career kind of making stuff and bringing stuff and ideas to light, then this is a career for you, and it's incredibly rewarding and exciting one. So go for it.
Hey, guys, I can't thank you enough for volunteering your time here. So thank you very much.
No problem.
Pleasure.
Thank you.